Hey there, John Morris here, johnmorrisonline.com, and welcome to another episode of The John Morris Show. In this episode, I'm going to be answering another question, and this one has to do with how do I estimate how long a web design project will take. So I have a pretty strong opinion about this because of the way I encourage people to go about their projects. Now, I think if you ask a lot of developers, they'll tell you that this is one of the hardest things to figure out. And that's true. In a lot of ways, I hate this about web design. And that is the client's focus on how long it's going to take and having some sort of time frame up front. Oftentimes, I have clients who will push for a certain or a specific amount of time. And I'll flat out tell them, look, I'll give you a time. I'll tell you times if you want to know a time. But in no way am I saying that that's when it's actually going to be done. Because whatever I tell you, for the most part, is just going to be a guess. Now, that's true if you're working on projects that are unknown to you. They're new types of projects. All right, so let me dive into kind of what I'm getting at here. There's really two things when it comes to this question. The first thing is if you're specializing correctly. So if you are not just taking on any and every project you can get your hands on, but instead you have become a specialist and an expert at providing a very specific kind of result. For example, I specialize in building membership sites. And I specialize in building membership sites using WordPress and a plugin called Wishlist Member. Now that is a very tight, concise specialization. And it's a big enough market for me to get all the clients I could ever want. So if you're specializing correctly and you're targeting correctly and you're only taking on those clients, then with just a little bit of experience, you're going to know exactly how long it's going to take you. Okay, so that's the first part of the question, is that if you're specializing and you're targeting, then this gets a heck of a lot easier. And so what you should do in this scenario is you should work out a delivery schedule. So you should actually have a day-by-day system set up of what should happen each day until the project is complete, and have key milestones along the way of that delivery schedule, and really just map out exactly what you need to do. And then as you use it, you tweak it along the way. As you gain experience, you tweak it over time. And it doesn't take very many projects of doing this for you to get a really nice, concise map, essentially, for you to follow to complete these projects that you're specializing in. And you'll know exactly how long they're going to take. So again, if you're specializing correctly and you lay out a delivery schedule, then it's an easy question to answer because you already know the answer to it, because you do it over and over and over again. You follow the exact same schedule and you've tweaked it over time to where it's simple and easy. That said, well, one more point on that. If you never create a schedule, this is where I think a lot of web designers and web developers kind of trip up, is if you never actually do this and create a schedule, then you'll never know, because you'll never have it all laid out. You won't be following the same process every time. It'll be a little bit different every time. You won't be able to tweak it to make it perfect. And so this will always be a question that haunts you. So if you never have a schedule, then this is something that you're always going to deal with. However, if you specialize and you create a schedule, it's the easiest question for you to answer. Now, the second part of this is, again, if you're working on projects where it's unknown, I mean, try as you might, there will probably be times where you take on projects for one reason or another where you don't know, it's something you haven't done before, and so you don't know exactly how long it's going to take. You don't have a schedule, and so forth. So there's two things I recommend in that scenario. The first is, even if you don't have a schedule and you're not sure, if you're going to take on the project, you should have some idea of the steps that you're going to need to go through in order to get the project done. And if you lay out those steps individually, and then you look at each step and try to assess how long you think that might take, you can get a lot more accurate answer than just trying to look at the project as a whole and guess. Okay, so that's the first thing. If you're dealing with unknown projects or projects you've never done before, lay out the steps that you think you're going to have to take and how long you think each one of those steps is going to take. That's going to get you a lot closer than anything else that you could do. Once you've done that, then look at it, and the rule of thumb that a grizzly old veteran taught me when I first started out is to multiply that time by 3. So whatever you think it's going to take, you multiply it by 3, because it's ultimately, again, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, as the saying goes. What you've laid out will probably not work out exactly if you've never done it before. You'll have to tweak that process, and you'll learn things along the way. And it'll probably take you a little bit longer than you think. But it's better for you to say that it's going to take 4 weeks for you to get something done, and it takes you 3, than for you to say it's going to take 2 weeks and it takes you 3. The project gets done in the exact same amount of time, but the difference between you saying 4 weeks versus 2 weeks is a whole nightmare's worth of difference. So you always want to give yourself more time. Now, that sounds kind of easy. However, the thing you have to realize is that when you do that and you tell that to your clients, you're going to get some pushback. I've had this happen to me several times where clients, I've told them a time and they've said, really? It's going to take that long? And that's when you have to get into the notion of telling them, look, that's the guaranteed time. So that's me saying that no matter what, it's going to be done in that amount of time. Now, I'll try to get it done faster, but things happen. There's issues that can come up and so forth. And so that's really kind of the guaranteed time. And obviously I'm going to get it done faster if I can. Oftentimes, or most of the time when you do that and you say that, your clients they'll be okay with that. That'll work. If it doesn't, then that's when you as the developer want to look at the situation, really assess if this is something you want to get yourself into. Because you might be attaching yourself to a client who's going to be not only unreasonable when it comes to the timing, but unreasonable on a whole lot of other things. And no matter how much money is involved, it may end up being more of a headache than it's worth. So those are the 2 things to keep in mind. Specialize. You should have a core specialty that most of your activity centers around. So this question is easy. It's simple. You don't have to worry about it. And then for the outliers, every now and again, when you take on some project that's kind of outside of your normal thing, again, develop a step-by-step schedule and then multiply what you think it's going to be times 3. If you do that, you put yourself in a good position timing-wise to where you're never in a situation where you're at week 3 of a 2-week project. All right? So that'll do it for this episode of the show. Hopefully that helps you answer that question and develop a framework for dealing with it. Now, if you'd like to ask me a question yourself, then there's really 2 ways that you can do that. You can head on over to Quora.com and ask your question there and then invite me to it. And you can find me on Quora at Quora.com/John-Morris-67. And again, you can invite me to answer your question. I'll try to do that for you. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at JPMorris using the hashtag JMOIWantToKnow. Send me your question there and I'll try to answer it as well. All right. Thanks for listening to this episode, and I'll talk to you next time.